All right. Let's see here. So wait. So in Instagram's infinite wisdom, somehow it thinks that Elias's account is a private account and it's not allowing him to join, and it's not allowing me to join him. Chris is saying he couldn't get into the other video either, so I'm assuming that there's something wrong. Well, now, oh, hold on, there's another request. Let's see if this works. Okay, accept. Hey! My friend!
Wait, does people hear me? That's the only thing now.
I can also hear you.
Fuck!
I couldn't hear you on the other one.
Well, this is my guess. This account is connected to another account that I have, and the other account is private, so I'm guessing that is because the other account was private.
Yeah.
But in that case, it's still fucked up. Either way, it's fucked up. Oh, fuck's sake. Okay. So you were giving a tour.
What's that?
You said that you were giving a tour, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I figured I was on it, so. There's Cuppa. Had people set up. I have figures ready to go. Got Tomy. And
Yeah, I saw that one. But she seems a bit smaller. She is on the
World Box.
the World Box body.
Yeah.
How many do you have yet?
The World Box?
Yeah, how many of them?
I have 3 of them. And I like them a lot, especially when their arms are covered and their legs.
Yeah.
You don't see that.
The joint.
Yeah.
But all the blushing on the knees.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, I really like them. That I think someone was saying, I think it might have been Legacy Rise of Vera the Strong, that they're really hard to pose, and they are.
Seriously?
I have. What's that?
They are?
Well, to a certain extent, like they have a great range, like that because of the elbow, you can do things like this, which is nice, and really get, you know, good posing that way. But like I have my Zoe figure on one of these, and I can't get her on her motorcycle anymore because it's just like there's a lot of movement, you know, in like the joint here.
Yeah.
Like that's great, but when you come to the joints in the hips and the like, it gets harder. You can't get the same
range of motion.
Yeah, wave of motion. So I've tried a couple of times, and it just doesn't look as, you know, good as the Fison did on the motorcycle. But it's, for me, it's a trade-off. So it's like, I'm gonna just have that character sell her motorcycle. She crashed on it anyway at one point, so just fix it that way, and then some other person will buy the motorcycle.
You gotta make it work.
Yeah,
you gotta make it work.
Exactly. So,
but is it harder to find clothes for them?
In some respects, like I always get like the larger hip ones, because it's like, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well, you know, get something out of it that other ones don't have. So that gets tricky. But like I found that you could do skirts and let's see, hold on a second. The other one here. These work really well, these little stretch pants.
Oh yeah.
But you can see it's just like this a wider hip, you know, ratio, and it's just not going to fit, you know, a lot of the pants that you have. The Fisons barely fit in. I mean, you look at the Janice, who's also a little wider hips, and hard to find clothes to fit her. So
Yeah, that's the problem with the license.
Yeah. And you know, if you were doing, you know, the Barbie stuff is all over the place, and they're just sticks with feet, and so all their clothes are just, you know, wafer thin, and it's a lot easier to find. So,
Favorite lunatic. True that. Okay, let's
yes,
start.
yes.
First of all, do you call them your dolls or your figure?
Uh, it depends. I do.
What?
I think I'm cutting my head off here. Wasn't used to
Yeah.
wasn't used to this step. Um, um, I I bounce around. I'm not scared to call them dolls because
Mhm.
that's what they are. Um, but I'm a 55-year-old dude doing this, and I just really don't care anymore. Like people, I stopped posting stuff to my personal Facebook account because I got tired of people going like, "Are you okay? Should we call somebody?" You know, jokingly,
Yeah.
because it
No.
like they can't fathom, you know, doing doll stories or whatever. So I just avoid that. I don't need that.
Mhm.
But I've gotten to a point, especially recently, where you know I go out in public more with figures to take shots. I drive my Jeep around outside, um, and I just don't care because it's like it's like one of the things that brings me joy. So uh, you know, whether I call them dolls or figures or whatever, it just happens. You know, like sometimes I'll say, "Oh, my dolls," or sometimes I say, "Oh, my figures," just because I'm old school and there were always, you know, action figures in the boy category.
Yeah.
You know, GI Joes were always, you know, action figures, and then Barbies were dolls. And so, because I'm old, I just have that in my head. You know, it's not that I'm trying to, uh, you
But
know,
I agree on
sneak in.
that.
Yeah,
I agree on that. It's just, in my opinion, at the moment, I really feel like it's more a marketing strategy. We call them action figures, so we're targeting boys' audience. We call them dolls, so we're targeting girls' audiences
mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. And so, which but I rather ask before, you know, because some people might just, you know, call them dolls or action figures. Um, so one of the other questions that I had was, which one was your first doll figure that you had in your collection? Because you, for the record, for everyone to get the info, this is a restart that you're having. It's not a new beginning. You have been in the doll figure community before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking for the first time that
like
you went,
like way back,
like
or
way back when you started to do doll photography or action figure photography. Which one was your first doll figure?
um, I like I said, I'm old, so like way back
No
when I was,
age
yeah.
shading here, okay?
Hey,
We
I'm embracing. I
respect
just turned into a
all
grandpa,
ages.
so I'm embracing it. Um, I used to get GI Joe figures, and I still
Wow.
remember. You know, back in the day, it was Toys R Us. You go to Toys R Us, there's GI Joes, and I got. I had one, just a regular GI Joe, but then one Christmas, the biggie was I got the GI Joe set that had, it was a submarine. It was like a white submarine,
Wow.
and it had a little squid that came with it. And the cool gimmick was that the submarine would fill up with water and it would sink, and then you blow into, I think you blew into a tube, and that blew air in, and that made the submarine come up.
That's wild.
Yeah. And oh man, we had a pool at the time at the apartment complex we were living in. So I was in the pool with that thing and just playing like crazy. It was the best.
I forgot
Uh,
sometimes that you are from the United States, and that United States you have that kind of apartment when you have the pool, because in Europe and especially in France we do not have that. So it's kind of funny to remember that.
right. Sorry, I'm like trying my phone plugged in so it doesn't run out of battery on me. Um, but yeah, that was my one of the first memories I had. And then I have a redo of it over in the corner here. The Evil Knievel. It was a smaller figure. I think it's about um, I don't know. It's not 12th scale. It's a little bit bigger than that, but it's a yeah. I'll get.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
At this point,
Yeah.
I'll keep the audience busy. Go ahead. Well, busy, not that much.
This is very
This might
dusty at the moment, but it's this Evel Knievel figure, and it goes in this little thing here, and then you turn this crank on the side, and it makes the wheel turn, and you crank it, and then when you stop cranking it, it takes off, and it does, you know, wheelies and all sorts of stuff. And this is a redo of it, recent redo, but back in the day, we had this thing and just hours of just what else can we jump it off of, you know? And you know, you could pose it and all sorts of stuff. Wasn't trying to take pictures of it, but
have you watched Toy Story 4?
I have not seen the fourth one.
You have to watch it now that I've seen this.
Yeah, because isn't there like a character like that?
Something like that. I will not spoil, but you have to watch it though.
Right.
Because of that. So when did you start photography, toy photography or doll photography? How did it come up?
It's funny because I was just thinking when you said that, I went from, you know, when I was older and had cash, I started buying the blue box figures, which were a lot of military stuff. And I was talking to somebody about it. I had so many like 6-scale vehicles. It was a total comfort thing where it was just like, I gotta get another thing. And so I had Jeeps, and I had 2 helicopters, I had an ambulance, and I think it was Blue Box. They put out a lot of these things. It was 21st Century Toys did some as well. And they were huge, and I didn't even take pictures really. I took some pictures, but I had some at work. And it got to a point where I brought mine in, and then other people started buying them because it's like, those are cool. Where'd you get that? So I worked in an agency. So I was a creative in an agency, and in the creative area, we were doing stuff like I hung a helicopter from the ceiling, 6-scale helicopter, and all that. So I still wasn't really doing a lot of photography at that point. It really was, you know, the advent of, you know, the iPhone coming, you know, more around. And then I started doing a lot of photography for my train stuff. I used to do N-scale train stuff, and then switched out of that when we moved. I broke that whole thing down and started doing the 6-scale stuff. And that's when I started doing more photos at that point.
Okay.
So I got
pretty late.
Yeah. I wasn't, because there was, you know, at the time, if you think about it, there was like Flickr I had stuff on.
True.
But, you know, very rarely did you even, you know, have any kind of traction there.
Pretty correct, actually.
Yeah.
There was Flickr. There was also, no, because Google Photos came really late also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at that time, yeah.
Yeah. So
it reminds me of a French song. I can't remember the lyrics, but it's Charles Navour who sing the song, and the saying is, "Tell me the story of a time that the under-20s don't know about."
Yeah.
And I'm feeling pretty much like that too now.
Oh yeah.
So at the moment, do you take photos with a phone or with a camera?
I do a phone because
Wow.
these cheaters. I've tried doing it. I have a nice camera. I have a nice Canon, and it was fine. But then when my eyes started going, it was a pain to look through the viewfinder with glasses.
Like glasses on, yeah, true.
And then even then, I think I was in focus, and I wasn't. And then I go and do like a batch of photos, and then like have like the background perfectly clear and the doll.
Oh fuck! I hate those moments.
I got sick of it, and so now the iPhone has has 3 settings basically, and I don't know the technical jargon for it, but the one of them, if you hit it, you can kind of fake it pretty well as far as you get the correct lens look. It doesn't look like you know, it does something to like zoom in a little bit, and then you don't get that weird like bowing on the sides and stuff that can really kind of ruin photo. And then I always, you know, I never take it this way. I take it horizontal, which also helps. Unless, you know, I've done some where I'm trying to show off an outfit or something. I'll do it that way just because you get more in the frame.
But I'm surprised because I thought it was on the camera, because it's like, you know, Aurora. Yeah, she's doing photos with her phone too. And if I didn't saw her take the photos with her phone, I will still believe that it was actually a camera, like a Nikon or a Canon.
Yeah.
And I was kind of feeling the same way when it comes to your photos, because I thought it was from a camera and not from a phone. So that's pretty impressive to be able to create that kind of details and to have all of the details and the pixels in these photos. It's pretty impressive.
It's that one setting. It really does. I got into a conversation on one of the groups on Facebook about that too, where everyone's like, what kind of camera are you using? And what is your, you know, your f-stop and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I use my phone all the time. Like, I always have it with me. I don't have to worry about the lighting as much, settings, all that kind of stuff. And I've gotten really good at it. You know, you touch the screen and that's what I want the focus on.
Yeah.
You could play with the light, you know, if you hold it down and like, you know, up or down. The things, there's weird little things that, you know, because I'm doing, you know, the magic and the witchcraft and all that kind of stuff, I have some lights that have, there's a really nice blue one I used to use a lot. It was a fish tank, of all things. And we got rid of the fish tank, but I was like, hey, this light is pretty handy. And it had two settings. One of them had like a lot of blue in it.
This is called recycle, reuse.
Yeah, it's like, this is useful. So I was setting that up and taking these shots, and it was doing weird stuff to the phone does not like a blue light. It just, it's something with the lens, and it just gets all funky. And sometimes it works, you know, if I'm trying to do kind of weird effect. But that's the only kind of, what's that?
Can be tricky to have colorful lights like the blue, but I love doing blue and pink photos, that kind of stuff. But it can easily turn oversaturated, and then you just burn the picture. You don't see anything.
Exactly.
So yeah, in blue light, I have realized that recently it's really tricky to use correctly in doll photography.
Yeah,
it's pretty much tricky.
But that's what Photoshop is for.
True. When you have skills to do and use, that's one of the questions I was wondering about. Are you more raw photos or more into edit photos? If you make a ratio about all the doll photos that you have on your account, what will be the ratio?
I really, you know me, I think I've gotten better about my posts during the day. I've really made an effort to not flood it, because I was telling, again, Chris, Vera Strong, I could do this all day and just keep telling stories, and I have so many figures and so many stories to tell. But, you know, I've gotten feedback, and it's like, I don't want people to miss stuff. I don't want to feel like I'm just flooding the market. So I've been doing a thing where I've been, you know, making an effort to set up images more and posing and taking more time with it. So I still do a lot of that, but I've also gotten into using Midjourney to do backgrounds because it widens my world up. So when I do that, then I'm shooting it and doing a lot of photo editing.
Yeah. Well, you have to match the lighting to match the. You have made a video on YouTube talking about that.
Right.
So that was pretty good also to know how you work on that, because I never do that. So that was pretty helpful to know your working process.
And it was fun. That was a fun one to do because there is a lot to it, and a lot of times I don't even think about it. But those little steps that I like to take, like I basically shoot it now against white, try to match the lighting as you know, good as I can. Especially if I'm in like looking at the image and saying, like in this case, I have a window over here that you can't see, but you can see the light is coming in here. And then if I'm using a Mid-Journey background that I've created, I try to at least match that big light source, because that's harder to fake. And then I go in and start doing stuff like I adjust the exposure in Photoshop, and then, apply photo filters to kind of get the right, like if it's in a yellow room, I really make an effort to, change that to have a yellow bounce.
Yeah,
So,
sure. There was something
that.
I was wondering about, because on the video, if I remember well, you have first the background, and then you check the photos, or you already have the photos and then you create the background. Which one comes first?
I try to do a thing where I create the background first, because it's easier to match. So, but it, again, depends on what I'm doing. Like if I know it's going to be like a dark forest or something, that's pretty easy. But what I've been doing, like for the big warehouse thing where the paranormal podcast people were in the warehouse taking photos and stuff, I did all those warehouse pictures first, and that allowed me to match lighting and all that stuff a little bit better. But in some cases, I just have I have like a whole folder of backgrounds that I just, I'll get bored and I'm like, what else could be, a thing. And so a lot of the more estate, all the bedrooms, all that kind of stuff, I just took a day, like, okay, bedrooms for a Gothic manor, and just a bunch, and then have that in a folder. And now I can go through and say, okay, well, like Eva's in this bedroom, Seth's in this one, and then I have to label it to make sure I don't, screw it up later.
That must be so well organized. I will never be able to do that for sure.
It's
maybe the first time I'm going to use that, but after a few weeks,
there's a lot.
Of course, there's going to be like the first folder will be named probably, and then you're going to have a bunch of new folder 1, new folder 2, new folder 3.
Yeah,
and it's labeled on it.
It's a biggie, especially doing these virtual backgrounds. You gotta be, you lose track of where things are, and so if you're gonna do that, you gotta be organized.
And especially in this hobby, we have to stay organized because of all the miniatures, the clothes, which clothes for which characters, and all that thing. So yeah, we have to keep our shit organized.
Right, and that's helped a lot. Speaking of clothing, and it's that same kind of organizing where I have certain characters that they're all about the clothing. Like now I have Sun, I have Cindy, they always wear the same kind of clothes. And so what I do now, I have bags of clothes, like especially for, Paige, who's always in pink, and Heather, who always has like a more of a sweet look to her. I've gathered the clothes that they wear all the time, and I put them in bags, and they only wear those clothes. Whereas other clothes, they'll you'll see them on other characters because the clothes is as big a deal for them.
Like the casual style clothes, like the white shirt and the blue jeans, that kind of. But you mentioned earlier that you have many characters, many storyline going on, and that's pretty much impressive, by the way, just so you know. But how do you plan all those storyline? Which one comes first? Which one comes second? How do you keep that storyline organized?
That, just like my figure buying, kind of got out of control. And I was just telling someone, it's like, yeah, it's time to kill off some characters again, or have to go away. And I've done that.
Oh my God, this is wild. Child.
I've done a couple.
You know what? Get rid of them. Kill them all.
It's like,
at some point, put a bomb, and that's all. Problem solved.
Yeah. And then some like this Janice character, she was killed off, and she came back,
that is kind of some Star Wars bullshit, like the character never die. They will come back once in a while, and she is just undeathable. You can't kill her. She's just...
There's certain characters I have that have what they call plot armor, which is they're never gonna get, like Cindy. I thought about it at one point. I'm like, wow, what if like no one would see that coming?
Who knows? Yeah.
But a lot of them don't have that plot armor, and so as far as the stories go, I realized, because I kept adding characters, and I love character creation and coming up with stuff, but I realized with that comes all these different storylines and things. And so what I've started to do now is I'm corralling and making it so there's less of these random storylines. I had a lot of those going on. So you'll notice, for people who are following the story, there's now like the paranormal investigation stuff that's going on and the weirdness of this area. And that's pretty much what my focus is now. There's not a lot of, seeing what's going on in Europe anymore, or, all these kind of things. There's a little bit of that. But I've really tried to corral it in and make it more about the Santa Clarita, oh man, those names, right? But the area that they're in, Claremont River Valley, that's it.
I won't be able to help. So, yeah.
That's another thing, as far as,
but I won't be able to help.
As far as organizing goes, I have a sheet because, like,
No
again,
way.
What's that?
You have a sheet on that there? Like the Excel kind of stuff?
Yeah.
You get,
because it's one of those things where, like, I'll forget someone's last name or whatever, and so I have it all blocked off into sections. So there's like the Moore estate, everyone who's associated with that, the girls in the house, Cuppa, Kim and Paige, with their first and last name and all that, because there's so many names and things. I'm going to screw it up, and most people won't even care. Like,
but
Claremont River.
There is some people who will be just pointing out those things if you mess it up.
Yeah.
And that's why I never give a last name to my dolls.
Yeah.
They just have a first name. That's basically all. Maybe a nickname, but that's all.
It's easier for sure.
Yeah. Or I'm just gonna use, like, for Matthew, it was Müller, his last name, because it's the most common German name. If I had a French character, he will be named Dupont, like the main average name.
It's like John
American Johnson. Perfect.
Yeah, and that's perfectly acceptable. I just have so many that I really, it's like my OCD. I have to, like, keep aware of all that kind of stuff. Like Aurora actually pointed out that when I brought Zampa back, I was spelling her first name differently because I hadn't had it written down. And she's like, "Isn't it this way instead?" I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And I immediately added that to the list, because it's like,
he definitely is the kind of person you will not mess on details.
Yeah.
She have an eye on every single thing. I just find it amazing.
It is amazing.
I don't understand how she just kind of being able to just save all this information, but mind-blowing.
It is
really mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I went off track. I don't know what we were talking about, storylines.
Yeah, but because there is a feeling that I have about the storylines. It's like watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There is a lot of character. There was a lot of stories. They were not connected to each and one of them. But because it kind of lost me at some point, because there were so many stories.
Oh yeah.
I gotta admit, I played guilty about that. But I really got back about the two podcasts.
Oh,
the woman and the guy. I don't have the name memories, so no shade.
Seth and Eva. Yeah.
Those two, exactly. Because I really felt like those two characters were like creating an Avengers movie. They connected each and every single person together,
right.
And I just was mind-blowing, because this specific moment right now in your storyline is mind-blowing. I'm loving it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the corralling, right? I realized I was all over the place. I had characters in Germany. They were fighting. The whole Halloween thing, it just drove me absolutely bonkers. And then I was talking to Steffi, and she was releasing Halloween stuff way after Halloween. I'm like, oh yeah, I could have done that. You know, like I was trying to cram it all in.
You
Like,
don't have to follow a trend.
yeah. And so I realized I had so much going on that it was all over the place. And so between my Marty character and the podcasters, they're kind of helping me corral stuff up. So they're looking at all the stuff that's going on and trying to make these connections themselves. And, you know, the podcasters believe in all the, you know, all that stuff, and they want to see that stuff. Where Marty is just like, I don't care about any of that. That's bullshit. That doesn't happen. You know, werewolves, that's ridiculous. You know, witches, you know. And so at some point, those worlds are going to like kind of collide a little bit. The podcasters are seeing stuff that they want to see, but I think they're going to be like, hey, this is a lot. Like, this is more than
seeing these potions come to work.
Exactly. That was one of the biggies. And it's just like, I was thinking about it, like they're the outside source seeing it, you know, inside the story. And that's going to help kind of wrangle stuff.
Connected, yeah, sure.
You know, sections and meet these different people. It's going to be like, oh, that's that person, and you know, and all that. And that's why I think I'm going to have certain people. Like I'm thinking about having Grazia, the redhead. I think she's going to go back to Italy at one point.
She's not going to die again. So
what's that?
She's not going to die again.
Well, no, that's Zampa died. She's going to stay put because that was pretty final for her friends and family back home to, you know, come back alive. But Grazia just escaped, you know, so now that things are kind of calmed down, I think she's going to just go back, and she might, you know, show up every once in a while, but little things like that, like just trim some of that stuff away so it's not so messy. And then, you know, really focus on the main characters and the likes.
That's something that is quite, I have a mixed feeling because it's quite admirable, but also funny. You have this capacity to just share so many content daily. I call you the spam king. You know?
I've gotten better though.
Well,
it's all relative, right?
And I'm just wondering, how do you manage to create that much content on a daily basis?
It's an escape, to be honest. Like I have a lot of stuff going on in my life in general. Just had a new grandson, first grandson. We're going to go back to Colorado to see my daughter, meet him for the first time. I got 2 kids here at home. I got a dog. You know, I'm still job searching. I'm doing freelance work. I have a lot of these kind of like daily things I have to do.
And still, you are able to post 5 posts daily on Instagram. What the fuck? How?
It's all in here, and I have to like that's my escape. So when I do that stuff, and I'm able to like the video that I did recently of I'm just trying to read this. The one I did that Seth took a video of his room and that whole ghost thing.
Girl, that I've watched it maybe 3 or 4 times at the same moment. I was just swiping and getting back because there were so many details going on the video. It was just so cool and well done. So like the girl saying on the Glow Up TV show, ding dong darling, ding dong.
Well, thank you. I had to stop myself because like it turned into it turned into a whole project. You know, it's just like now I'm sourcing sounds and you know, I have, since I do this for a living, I have access to all this stuff, so it makes it easy. But just like with my freelance work, a lot of it is, you know, I'm walking the dog and I'm just thinking about it in my head, like, oh, this could be, you know, sometimes I'm listening to a podcast or a book on tape, book on tape. I'm old. But I actually have to stop listening because I have these storylines going and I'm trying to put it all together, or how I could, on that video, it's like how I could put it together. That I was up at, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, that'd be kind of cool. And I'm kind of going through and just kind of like thinking about it in my head first. And then when I have time to do it, I jump on it and do it. And I think that's what happens a lot is I'm planning and sourcing and all that. You can even see I have like a spoiler here, new character, of course. But it's all going on in my head. And so when I have time to do it, I do it, just set it up and go. And a lot of it's already pre-planned in my head. So it's, I've actually stopped doing as much because I don't want to, spam people and flood it.
Hold. To make sure. You what?
Oh, I can do that.
You did what?
Admit it's less than it was. But it's all relative. Like I do like two posts in the morning sometimes, and then like maybe like 2 posts late at night.
Girl, you said, what the fuck? You making 4 posts per day. James said I struggle to do 5 a week. I struggle to do maybe 2 a week.
It's insanity. It's insanity is what it is.
Delusional.
I just have to like.
And you're saying I'm making a bit of a slow here. I want to take it slow now, so I'm only making 3 or 4 per day. Yeah, because once in a while I like to do 10 in a day. But now I'm making myself, like get yourself together for the time.
Well, a lot of it is like I even have it written down first and then go and shoot it, or shoot it and then kind of as I'm shooting it kind of come up with the plot or whatever, but the big plot structure is already set. And so I'm doing a thing where I want to do a thing where I have story stuff, and not everything has to be big part of the story. So like, I've done some shots where it's just like Kat and Tori just walking around and just like there's no dialogue, there's no story to follow, it's just an image. So I'm trying to pepper that in because I don't want people to get lost. I don't want the big picture to get lost on people, because then it's just I'm just doing it for me. Why even post it?
Sure.
If people aren't able to follow it.
Sure.
So that's what I'm trying to waver on now. And I have a Facebook page that I put stuff on as well, like a lot of old pictures and whatnot. So I'm not putting old pictures in because people get confused.
Mm.
And
you have this little blog that you post on it.
Right. Yeah, I have my blog, and the blog now I was trying to do like story recaps.
Okay. Cool.
But it got really difficult because it's like another thing to do. It's like it's not a job. Like if I was making money, oh shoot, I would do it all day long. I would do recaps and I have a whole thing where I want to do character bios or like at least rough. This is where they were. Excuse me, because people are like, I don't know who that is. I won't name names, but there's somebody who has issue with names, like keeping names straight. And so I'll say a name and they'll be like, I don't know who that was. Who is that again? And so I figured if I had like a blog post with all these, like, here's the picture, here's the name kind of thing for people to refer to if they needed to, that might be a good thing.
Sure.
And then little things like that story we put, Aurora and I put in a lot of time on that story, that Italy story.
That was amazing.
That was a lot of fun. It was so much fun.
That was just amazing. As a viewer and a reader, it was just a masterclass on how to make a crossover. There was so many different information coming on one side and the other, and then they connect, and then that was just, and it was like We call it the Cluedo
Oh yeah,
in France. I don't know
yeah.
if that. It was just like that. Who, where, when, and with what. That was impressive.
That
That
was
was so great. Like a summer story was just
it
so
was
cool.
a lot of fun to do. And so I want to take that. I found it. I downloaded my Instagram whole page basically, and I sourced it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy and paste it onto my blog. I'm going to try to
Cool.
get Aurora's part as well, and then have it in order so you could just read it start to finish right there. Because you can't find anything on Instagram. It's like once it's
Yeah,
on there, it's
you can't just
yeah,
swallow. Yeah,
uh,
scrolling, scrolling,
and it
scrolling.
was
Then
back.
you just turn on the left and you have to get back and scroll again. We know that.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
yeah. So I'm just gonna, because that was so, we put so much effort into that one. I'm gonna take it and compile it and put it on my blog, because that was a lot of fun. That was really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But speaking of story, how do you work about writing? Do you have all the plot and the ending in your head in advance and you just go with the track? Or you have some ideas and you go with the flow?
A lot of go with the flow,
Oh,
um, because a lot of, well, some of it I have big plans. So again, Detective Marty figuring stuff out. That's a big plan. The podcasters, there's a big plan there. Like just getting them into the estate. I was like, how am I going to get them in there? And I had to basically tweak Olivia's thinking, Olivia Moore, who runs the estate, um, change her thinking to giving back to the community and trying to be less of a witchy, scary lady behind walls and stuff. Um, and it worked. It wasn't exact what I wanted, but it got them in there at least. And now that they're in there, they can explore and stuff. Uh,
sure.
and so big stuff like that I do. And then some of it is just this weird thing where like I'll have the one I posted recently where Renair was playing the guitar for Zampa. It's just like I saw him and I saw her and I put them together, and it just kind of fit, and it's like, and then this lady was always around the background. She was just going to be like a background player, but then when I was taking the pictures, I'd see her in the background and she was always like looking at somebody.
Mm,
So that kind of got me thinking like, oh, what is she doing? Like she's just not hanging out being a nice lady in the
yeah,
background maybe.
sure.
And so there's some organic stuff like that where it
That's
just
pretty dope. So you
happens.
just when we said go with the flow, you also kind of check your photos and see, okay, this is getting used a
Mhm.
lot and she appeared a lot, and how to connect that and to create yet another story among
Yeah.
this Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Malcolm Cinematic Universe. Don't call that true at this point.
Well, I mean, going back to it, I have done like regular stories. I've been on like the Scare You to Sleep podcast with some stories that I've written. She does like fantastic work reading them, and she does sound effects and stuff. The first time I heard one, I was like, oh, I got to get her more because it's so great to hear your story
Mm,
in audio format. With someone who is really good at reading it. Um, and so I have a lot of that background. I love cinema. I love films from high end Fellini to really low end '80s horror. So there's a range of stuff that I just
yeah,
love.
we can
Yeah.
tell there was.
uh, so the story is really important. I really like storytelling, and so the doll stuff kind of, it was great because I never really got off my ass to do a novel. I've done
Mm,
short stories, but I've never, written an actual book. I never I thought, oh, I'll write a screenplay and then I'll get money and I'll make the movie and all that. That never happened. And so now with the figures and the dolls and everything, I get to have my little,
create, yeah.
you know?